Hello, welcome back here into Caden's Weather Center. Right now, we're continuing to pay attention to a severe thunderstorm watch that is continuing on in the northeast right now, but we also are paying attention to areas of interest in the eastern Pacific and the Atlantic. Our main focus is going to be the Atlantic today, as we already have one area of interest that is in the northern Gulf, and that is going to possibly impact parts of Texas and Louisiana, bringing some heavy amounts of rainfall to localized heavy in specific areas. We're going to dig deep into that as well. Then also some of the ensembles picking up on a possible system in the MDR to form as we head into August. We're going to be paying attention to that. We're going to be digging deeper into it. We're going to go over all the models and give you the latest information. But let's talk about right now the current weather for that is happening according to this video, or at least the recording of this video. We can see severe thunderstorm watch continuing on over here for the northeast. As the recording of this video, once again, there's going to be about 6.5 hours left in that severe thunderstorm watch. There's that area of interest down here, down in the south. We're seeing a lot of that thunderstorm and flash flooding potential is going to continue kind of in this general region. Later today, this will start to emerge into southern and central Texas, and that's going to bring that threat here for that flash flooding. But this system right here most likely will not form here according to the National Hurricane Center. But obviously, regardless of the development, the rainfall will be one of our big competitors throughout that system's life, really. We're going to continue to pay attention to the northeast. You can see slight thunderstorms continuing on right now here, expected to kind of ramp up as we head into the evening hours. That's when we could be seeing a little bit more of heavier thunderstorms and a little bit more scattered thunderstorms there. But then we also have some thunderstorms kind of just happening in the Ohio Valley and then the central United States. You can see this area right here has a moderate risk for flash flooding later today, and we're just going to be seeing that rain kind of just hanging out what already it's doing as of this time. So let's hop right into the tropics. We're going to pay attention here to the tropics here. This is going to be our biggest thing as we're in hurricane season, of course. You can see there is our one area of interest here by the National Hurricane Center. It's going to be emerging into Texas here pretty soon. We have a tropical wave right over here, kind of in the main development region. That's going to be pushing over here to the west, and we'll talk about that. But also these tropical waves that keep emerging off of Africa, we're going to be seeing those having the more of the potential for development here, especially as we start heading into more of the peak of the hurricane season. That's kind of what we're going to pay attention to. Taking a look at the Gulf, we could see we do have that area of interest right now. That center of low pressure, you kind of could see the spin is kind of right off the coast here of Louisiana. And you can see that majority of all the convection and all the rainfall is going to be on that southwestern side of the center. But you have a little bit of stragglers kind of going on over here on the eastern side. But majority of that rainfall and the heaviest amount will be on the western side. And you can already starting to see that the Texas coast starting to receive some of that rainfall. And that is going to continue on for the next couple of hours. You can see that here by the National Hurricane Center. You can see 10% chance of formation in the next 7 days. Right now, it's expected to move inland over southwestern Louisiana or even to Texas tonight as well. We're going to see the center of low pressure obviously stay off to the north, but we're going to see majority of the rainfall really impact the southern part of Texas and even the central part, but as well as the southern part of Louisiana. That back side of the system is really going to impact Louisiana as well, and that's what we're talking about that with that flash flooding threat. If we dig deeper into the flash flooding threat, you can clearly see for today, we can obviously see that there is a marginal risk here for that flash flooding, really stretching from the southern part of Texas. That's going to bring it all around here into even parts of the Florida Panhandle here. That is some marginal risk threat here for some of that flash flooding. You have Baton Rouge in that region, as well as Houston. San Antonio is on the outside of that system. Of the marginal risk still doesn't mean that you can't get some flash flooding, but this is going to be the main areas that do get that flash flooding. Now you head over here to the central part of the United States, and what we were looking at, you could see Kansas City. You guys are expected, you are in that moderate risk here for some flash flooding, as once again that rainfall that kind of just sits in this general area is just going to hang out and really just sit there and just dump heavy rainfall at times, and that's kind of what's going to keep adding up those water totals there of that flash flooding. So make sure if you're under a flash flood warning in that general area, make sure you get to higher ground and do not drive through flooding waters especially. Let's take a look at the HRRR model. This is kind of a model that we kind of look at here to kind of just give us a little bit of a representation on what we could be expecting over the next couple of hours. I believe, let's see if we go to the 17Z, the latest update here, we could see currently going on right here. Your time is going to be over here. So at 4 p.m. here, so about in the next 2 to 3 hours, 4 p.m. here on July 25th on Friday. Some of that rain starting to emerge into the Texas region. A lot of that scattered showers, thunderstorms continuing on over here. The west coast or the east coast of Louisiana, kind of central Mississippi, Alabama, but the western part of the Florida Panhandle. That's going to continue on. Then we're going to see some of that rain kind of emerge on later this evening, 7 p.m. here. The parts of central Texas could get some of that heavy rainfall, but once again, just with that flash flooding threat, we're still seeing some localized heavy rain continuing on throughout the Louisiana region, Mississippi, Alabama, and that is what's going to lead to that flash flooding threat. Then we see it kind of continue on as we go throughout the overnight hours. Starts to dissipate a little bit as we head into early tomorrow morning. That's probably when the National Hurricane Center will probably issue its last advisory, will be tomorrow, as this storm has moved really quickly, remarkably quickly as well, across the northern part of the Gulf here, but hasn't had obviously the best chance of developing. It hasn't gotten organized, but it's also due to some wind shear, but also due to how close it has been to land. But still, once again, flash flooding potential in this region right here. So bringing some of that heavy amount of rainfall also will be in the northern central part here of the United States, but really Louisiana and Texas need to be paying attention to this area of interest just in case of some of that flash flooding potential in that region. Taking a look at the satellite right now here over Africa, this is a big tropical wave that is expected to emerge off Africa here probably in the next coming of days, and that's going to impact maybe these little islands right here, and that's kind of what we're starting to see. We're seeing a little bit more of a northern systems, and that's kind of what we see at this time of year. Usually kind of at the end of the early part of hurricane season, we see them more down to the south, and they don't form very often, and that's kind of why we don't see it in the MDR until really August and September. But so far this season, everything's been very quiet in the MDR, but now that could be expecting to change here. But once again, nice little look here at a tropical wave that's going to be emerging off here in the next coming of days. We're going to see that kind of head out of the coast of Africa, and we'll keep an eye on that very, very closely. So right now, let's take a look here at the ensembles. These are the Euro ensembles, and I will tell you right now that the Euro ensembles are a lot more aggressive with this tropical wave that is expected to come over off of Africa and possibly form in the MDR. The Euro ensembles are a lot more aggressive than the GFS ensembles on this. You kind of can see, none of these are going to be expected to form, but there it is right there. You can see, and then the date is also up here. So you can see, or right here as well, Wednesday, the 30th. So this is going to be next week. We're seeing some of those low pressures starting right there, continuing to move up over here to the northwest, and that's just going to continue to get a lot of agreement on some of these ensembles. Nothing major, no hurricane has been really reported in any of these ensembles here, but there is a pretty good amount of ensembles that are kind of hanging out over the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico. So once again, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic could be getting some of that heavy rainfall regardless if this storm develops. But then you head on over here to the GFS. Not much going on with the GFS here, and you can see that. Now, as of the latest update, we've seen a little bit more of a couple models over here just east of the islands, but we really are not seeing as aggressive as the European model, which could be some reason why we're not seeing too much of that development chances at this time. But still, once again, we don't know anything. It's very far out, so we have little to, no confidence at this time. But the Euro ensembles have been, hinting at that, and that could be something to pay attention to as we go long down the road. But right now, also the National Hurricane Center not putting anything out at this time, so we're kind of just paying attention to that. Taking a look at the GFS model run here, we can see this is the 12Z model run. Not much going on. You can see there's our area of interest out here in the northwestern Gulf. That's going to emerge into Texas, bringing some heavy rainfall. Not much going on. Maybe an eastern Pacific storm right there. And I think that's that area of interest that's also going to be continuing. But now you see that high pressure that's off to the east as well. That's kind of a big steering problem here for some of these systems. Now that's going to bring, the GFS does say August 3rd here, we could be seeing the possibility of maybe a tropical depression, maybe a small tropical storm here in the Caribbean, as there's a high pressure off to its north. So that's going to kind of block it and force it to go off to the west here. So that could possibly, head into parts of Central America and then possibly emerge into the Eastern Pacific and form into its own storm there. But you can clearly see the high pressure is going to be blocking it from going off to the north, and that's why this storm is going to be going off to the west there. The European model, you can see, let's go to the 00Z as of this morning. We can see that high pressure isn't necessarily there too much The according to the GFS model, the high pressure is kind of just sitting right in this general region, but the Euro model is keeping the high pressure kind of in the same area, but majority of it kind of not as strong as what the GFS is saying, but some of the high pressure is more off to the east a little bit than what the GFS is saying. But once again, if the high pressure isn't strong, the storm could have the potential to sneak off to the north here. And that's kind of what we're seeing with these, obviously, those Euro ensembles. GFS bringing it more off down to the south here, not expecting any northern pull, but you can see that heavy amounts of rainfall. There's that area right there over the Dominican Republic. Puerto Rico could be getting some of that heavy rainfall as well. And then we kind of see this storm, and this would be that area right there. The Euro doesn't say it forms either, but it's super far out. But, you can see it kind of heads up into this general region, and that's kind of what we're seeing with the Euro ensembles at this time. So the big question, obviously, is does it impact anyone on the coast here of the Florida or South Carolina, North Carolina? Not really at this time. We don't have any confidence or anything like that. Now, the GFS, the other, about yesterday, was actually bringing a hurricane into South Florida. But right now, once again, the GFS hasn't said that at all today. So we're going to keep an eye on just in case. It's very far out still, so we have a lot that could change in this time. We might have no storm from it. It all depends on, obviously, that environment as well. But right now, I wouldn't be too worried about it as it's very far out. And even with the tropical hazards outlook, you can see August 6th through the 12th, we're not seeing any tropical development here expected in the Atlantic region. The only thing that we're expecting July 30th through the 5th is we can see that area possible for that development, and that's kind of what we could be seeing next week, but we don't clearly see anything going on out in the Atlantic. We'll have to see if this changes, but at this time, nothing continuing on out in the Atlantic for any major development or a possibility of development at this time. Now, the Eastern Pacific has those chances here of really forming something possibly there. Taking a look once again on what we are looking at with hurricane season, we have still a long way to go here. We haven't even reached August 1st yet, which is coming up very soon though. So August 1st kind of will start to have that little ramp up right there, a little bit of a hill. And then we're really just going to be keeping and climbing as we head into September. And the peak of the hurricane season, which is right up here, will be September 10th here. And then we still have a long more road to go as we go down. You can see, though, I want to point out this really quickly here. You see how this side right here is a lot more shorter than this side? Well, that is just because we start off slower. With the Atlantic hurricane season, we start off very slower, but then we end a little bit later as well, as we know that October, like Hurricane Milton, hit last year in October here, and some storms even hit in November. Mostly not strong in November, but could still have that possibility. So thank you so much for watching and tuning into this new video here and talking about the tropics. We're continuing to pay attention to the tropics, so make sure you're following your local National Weather Service as well as the National Hurricane Center for any new updates here on that tropics outlooks or any hazards that could be put into play later on this week, next week, anything. But right now, not too much to go on. The Eastern Pacific might be having a little bit more activity than the Atlantic at this time, but that could change as we head into the next coming of weeks here, especially when we head into the more of the middle of August. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys all have a great rest of your day. Stay safe, and bye-bye.